Welcome once again to Chill Filtered, the podcast where we drink whiskey so you don't have to, but you probably should. On today's episode of Chill Filtered, we are drinking Stranahan's. It's a Colorado whiskey out of no other than Colorado.
Yep.
It's not a bourbon, it's not a rye, it is just a whiskey. But before we get to the whiskey, let's get down to a little bit of business. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button on whatever app you're using, and also leave a rating and a review on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcast app, or iTunes. And then you can play a bigger part in what we do if you visit patreon.com/chillfiltered. Help us buy a bottle, if you will. That's the business. Here's the podcast. Cole, my friend, it's another week of Chill Filtered. It's another whiskey that we're going to be trying today.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that. But before we get into it, how are you doing?
I am well. Let me think. What's going on in the life of Cole? Yeah.
Maybe not too much, huh?
No. Just chugging along, as I typically say when I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Anything fun and new and cool? And
still working on ideas for the podcast that the company helped me or hired me to produce for them.
Yeah.
I will go as far as to say that it's a local brewery.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to work and see what exactly the podcast could be about.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be interview based or if it's just going to be straight informational about what their brewery is and specific beers from them and things like that. So working really hard on that, trying to figure out all the little details before we start recording and start producing it. So like I said last week, I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited that, it's my dream to be doing podcasts for a living. So this is like the first step.
That's awesome.
I would actually say it's the second step because like the first step has been the podcast that I already do.
For sure. Yeah.
Speaking of podcasts that I already do, well, actually first we are again recording video of Chill Filtered today. So listeners can find that on YouTube. They can go to our Facebook page. That's the easiest way they're going to find the link for it. But my other podcast that you enjoy, Madison Story Slam, we're running a GoFundMe account right now, or a campaign to raise money to live stream our live events in some of our podcasts, and that will benefit our listeners on Chill Filtered. If they liked the video from last week, having that equipment will actually let them tune in as we're recording it. So we can live stream as we're recording our show. I think that would be really cool to do.
It'd be cool. Yeah.
So if listeners of Chill Filtered want to see that happen and they want to help out, the way that they can do that is by going to gofundme.com/storyslamlive. And that will help me out with my other podcasts, but will also help us out here on Chill Filtered, and it would be huge. So I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Noodles.
And I'm trying to get it all to work out. And we'll see how it goes. I think that GoFundMe is probably going to take a few more months to finally get everything.
Yeah.
Part of the money that already came in has gone to cameras and things like that. Like we're recording on one of them for this episode. So some of the stuff is already bought. Basically, at this point, all we need is the base unit for the live streaming, and that's the most expensive part of everything. So we need to raise about $1,700 more dollars. We've already raised about $700.
That's cool.
Yeah, so life is good. I'm feeling better this week. I was sick last week, and I still have a little bit of a tickle in my throat, but that's okay. It happens. Let's just be honest with our listeners. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're recording 2 episodes really close together.
Yeah.
You haven't left for your wedding yet.
Yeah.
We could try and fake it and say...
But it'd be better when it's legit.
I know.
When I get back.
I know. So it'll be interesting for listeners on the next episode after this, where I'm actually asking you how Philly was and things like that. We could try and fake it right now, but like it would just
man, all those Johns I johned up.
It would just seem so disingenuous, and I don't want to do that.
I don't think it's that big a deal to record 2 in a short amount of time.
Yeah, they get it.
Yeah,
we're busy guys.
Yeah, we're busy. We're busy.
If we have the time, we're gonna do this. As quick as we can. So,
exactly.
Like I said in the intro, we are drinking Stranahan's.
Colorado.
It is out of Colorado,
Denver.
Listeners, if you, like we said in the last episode, if you want to drink this with us on Total Wine, it's going for about $43. Again, it's not a bourbon, it's not a rye. We'll get more into that when we actually start talking about it. But yeah, again, TotalWine.com has it going for about $43. give or take a few bucks at your local liquor store. I don't know. Do you know what this sells for at your liquor store?
I want to say 45, but it actually dropped price in the past few years. It used to be 65 was the standard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they dropped a lot.
Well, we'll get more into that when we come back from break. You sure you got nothing else to talk about?
Let's think. I've been making really good old fashions lately.
Really? You know what?
Life changing.
You had a post on our Twitter account.
Yeah.
Again, our Twitter account is ChillFilteredPC. If you want to find us on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you had a Twitter post about
it was a good
an
amount of likes.
Yeah, and it's been our most popular post yet on Twitter. What's your deal with doing old fashions?
I don't know. I made one the other day and it was so just good. I don't know what it was, and I made one today and it was also really, really good. So I think I'm gonna start drinking more old fashions lately. I've been using that barrel pick of Buffalo Trace, but it's good for what I spend for it. It's worth doing it.
Well, you need brandy.
Yeah, I'll try that next. I have some extra old Armagnac. But I don't have any like Corbels, so I'll have to grab some Corbels.
I think, we talk all the time about doing episodes for our Patreon subscribers. Yeah. I think that the first episode that we should do is a cocktail episode.
I think so.
Where we try a few different whiskey-based cocktails. And
that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I got oodles of bitters at home, so I can make a bunch.
Listeners, if you're enjoying the show and you want to hear every show that we do, you need to go to Patreon. Even if you just commit to $1 a month,
that'd be awesome.
You'll get access to the episodes that we're only going to be, putting on Patreon.
Yep.
So that cocktail episode, you'll want to see it and hear it. And so you should go to patreon.com/chillfiltered and help us out. Cole, I think that's all we've got for the first little bit of the podcast. What do you say we take just a quick break? Okay, back from first break here on Chill Filtered. Cole, today, like I've said a couple of times, we're drinking Stranahan's Colorado whiskey. Yep. It's not a bourbon. It's not a rye. Yep. Tell me about this. What is it? Where does it come from? All that stuff.
So we know in American whiskeys, typically, if you want to have like if you want to be like a traditional American whiskey, like bourbon or rye, you have to use charred barrels. And this is no different. But in order to be a bourbon, it needs to be the majority corn. In order to be rye, it needs to be majority rye in the mash bill. And this one is 100% a certain grain, but none like we're used to. In fact, there's even wheat whiskeys in American whiskey that are, you can get a straight wheat whiskey.
Yeah.
This, on the inner label, says straight Rocky Mountain whiskey, but this is 100% malted barley.
Oh, really?
Similar to most scotches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so...
So is it going to taste similar to a lot of scotch?
It is very interesting. I've had this one before. I've actually been to the distillery twice.
Yeah.
It is very interesting. I don't know if I would say it's like a scotch. It's super different.
Okay.
But not bad. In fact, I'll wait about that because it has these certain tasting notes that are really special. One thing about this bottle in particular is that they're very small, or not very small batches, but their small batches are not typically taste tested. Mm-hmm. They're not usually like trying to get consistent. So one of the cool things about Stranahan's is no two batches are similar, and they actually say that on the label itself. It says no two batches are the same. This is batch number 203. So those listeners out there who are grabbing a bottle, if you want to get the same bottle we're getting, try to look for a 203, but it's very likely you might not be able to see a 203 because there are so many batches. They used to it's a cool thing. They used to do a thing at the distillery where they did parties, labeling parties and bottling and labeling parties to where they would invite a lottery, amount of participants. They would put out a lottery saying, hey, who wants to bottle this next weekend or this, month time? And they'll just make a party out of it where the people that get chosen on the lottery will come in and they get 2 bottles at the end of the night. They don't get paid. They just get 2 bottles.
Oh.
And
that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, and they say like along the way they would drink and like enjoy the actual thing. And they said it used to be pretty bad when like people would like be asleep on the floor before the night was over.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things they used to do, and they don't do it anymore, is they used to put notes on the actual label, like handwritten notes saying, like the one I used to own said, "Listening to Merle Haggard."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Like one of the people that was doing the labeling wrote their own personal note on it, which is pretty cool. Master distiller, his name is Rob Dietrich. I've met him. Didn't really get to talk to him too much, but he used to have these like solid mutton chops and looked really crazy with them.
He's been, I think I read, he's been the master distiller since 2011.
Yeah, he's been there
and
a while.
They were established in 2004.
Yep. And so I don't remember their full names, but there was a guy named Stranahan. I want to say his name was George. But he met a brewer guy who owned a brewery who was also a what was it? He was a firefighter. There was like a fire that went down.
That's right.
They
did read
at
that.
Putting out a fire.
He was the firefighter, and he was putting out a fire on Stranahan's
That's
farm
what it was.
at his barn. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like during the fire, they started talking about whiskey. Like, what a time to like strike up a friendship and a business deal.
Yeah, it reminds me of like our friendship where we just like we're talking about something else, and now we're doing a podcast together.
Yeah,
but yeah, really cool guy. The crazy thing is about the company is that it's very unstandardized or non-standardized. What do you mean? The batches aren't taste tested to quality. I mean, they are, they make sure they don't have any bad stuff in here, but they're not going for like, for example, like Woodford Reserve or Four Roses. They want every bottle to taste exactly the same in that brand or the specific bottle line. This one, they're really not going for it. But like I said, they use charred oak barrels on malted barley.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing is they usually do a blend of anywhere from 2 to 5 years. It's usually 2, 3, and 5 years is the ages they go with when they blend it. But yeah, they're not going for like that consistency, but they are going for a good product. I mean, it's really, really interesting stuff. I like it.
It's a whiskey that you recommended that I have in my collection, so right. I assume that it's pretty good.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is when you go into the, quote, American whiskey realm. Mm-hmm. When I say American whiskeys in this sense, I am avoiding the word rye and I'm avoiding the word bourbon and all those things. This means it's kind of outside the realm of all of those. So some of the other ones you'll get, like I believe Tin Cup is a American whiskey.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some other. Do you know any American whiskeys off the top of your head?
No, not off the top of my head. This was the big one that I could think of.
But this and Tin Cup are actually related. They're both like the same kind of dude that was behind it.
Okay. Maybe that's why they both come with a little tin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both owned by Proximo Spirits. We talked about that with Sexton and Bushmills. Proximo owns Bushmills and Sexton. One cool thing about this bottle, and the second time I ever visited this distillery, was for their Diamond Peak release.
Yeah, what's that all about?
So it's kind of cool. It's like some of the big distilleries will put out their special releases, and this one's like just different, and you'll never get this one again. And so they put out a release. Do you know what a 14er is if they talk about Colorado? So 14er is a 14,000 foot or more mountain.
Sure.
And there are like 50 some in Colorado. So they're doing a release for every 14er in Colorado.
Okay.
I went, it was December 5th, 2015, and it was crazy. We had to wait outside. I got to the distillery at 6 a.m., and I drove an hour to get there with a friend. His name's Chris Goosens, if you're listening, shout out. And then, me and Chris are waiting in line from 6 to, it was like 10:30.
Jeez.
So we were out in the cold for like
you're committed
4.5 hours.
Is what you're trying to say.
Oh, you couldn't turn back once we were out there for an hour.
That's
like
true.
We've earned, like not earned it, but we're like, I've put in so much time. I don't want to walk away empty-handed.
Yeah.
The bottle, this Diamond Peak, it was the I believe it was the Mount Evans release.
Mm-hmm.
And we got 2 bottles, 2-bottle minimum. You couldn't buy any more, and they were $100 a pop. And just kept one and was able to trade one.
Flip the other?
Yeah, not flip, but trade.
It's the same thing.
But it was a $200 value. The other bottle, I forget what it was.
Yeah.
And then that was a good one. And but it was really interesting. They usually
finish
finish
difference
it
between them.
Oh yeah. Because this one they like finished in like 5 different barrels. One of them being like a sherry cask. One of them being like a brandy cask. It was super sweet. Yeah. And it was a little overwhelming, to be honest, on some tasting notes.
What do you mean overwhelming?
Too sweet.
Okay.
Too fruity.
Sure.
I didn't love it at first, but I would love to try it again. But I gave it to a friend when I had a half a bottle.
Okay.
And but otherwise, Denver, Colorado, at 5,280 feet, a mile high.
How much do you think that affects? the aging process?
That's a really good idea. I would say it affects it a decent amount because you think of like hot summer days in Kentucky on the top of the storehouses, how that can really affect a whiskey. But have you ever been to Colorado?
Yeah.
So
I worked on a dude ranch.
There.
Yeah.
So your skin gets dry.
Yeah,
your eyes get dry. You run out of breath very easily. You even get dry mouth sometimes in that state because it's just so high altitude. I have a feeling it would really affect the aging process, especially in terms of evaporation.
Yeah. Can you think of any whiskey that is comparable to this one
in terms of flavor or taste?
Yeah,
whatever. There's nothing like this one.
No, you don't think so?
I couldn't.
I guess today will be the judge.
Yeah.
I bet you I'm going to taste it. Now that we've said there's nothing comparable, I bet one of us is going to taste it and go, "Oh, this is kind of like blah blah blah."
You will be the one. Here's my what do you call it? Guess. You'll be the one to catch it. You'll pull out some name, and I'll be like, "Dag nabbit, you're right. Like you're so right on." But that's the big stuff with this one. 94 proof, so 47% alcohol, and they're very proud of their Colorado heritage and their Colorado. And so they were the first. I believe they were the first liquor license to distill in Colorado.
After Prohibition.
Yeah, after Prohibition.
They were the first micro distillery.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, in the history of Colorado, first micro distillery. And then they were also the first distillery to have a license after Prohibition.
That's what it is.
Which is, I mean, that's, like 70 years later after Prohibition, something like that.
Few other Colorado distilleries that I can think of. Peach Street, I believe that's in Denver. We talked about Breckenridge. That's in Breckenridge, Colorado. There's one in Colorado Springs. It's called 291. They won a lot of awards recently.
Okay.
And then the other big one is, dang it, what was it? Peach Street, Breckenridge, 291, and Tin Cup, which I believe is in Denver as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but it might be in
Colorado. Now, having lived in Colorado, was this like a staple at like every bar?
I mean, it was at every bar, but people weren't like, you gotta have the Colorado whiskey. Like, when you're in Kentucky, they're like, you gotta have bourbon. Yeah, and it's not like that. But it was notable.
Sure.
I mean, every bar did have Stranahan's.
People took note of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We last episode, and was it this? Things run together. Yeah. Did we talk about cocktails on this episode? We did. We did. We talked about you were doing. Would you use this in any kind of cocktail?
Oh yeah, I would try to find what works, but I couldn't tell you off the bat what would work with it.
Yeah,
but I bet you this would be really good in cocktail. Really interesting though that the price did go down by $20.
Yeah, do you know why?
I think they just started producing more.
Okay,
I imagine that was it. I mean, I went to the distillery and there were quite a bit of barrels, in that the building itself, and they had a few stills going. And
it's called a storehouse.
Storehouse, rick house. But yeah, they were chugging them out. What's the word I'm looking for? Like putting them out.
You've said chugging them out. Okay, cool. I think that got your point across.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Philly. You make up a word.
I mean, you didn't make up that word. People use that.
Well, they don't use it in terms of
I think they
pulling
do.
out things.
I think they do.
Okay,
what are you talking about pulling out for?
Come on. But I think that's all I got in terms of the cool things about Stranahan's. You want to take a sip?
Well, before we take a sip, Cole, I would love to take a sip, but before we do, let's take just another really quick break. Once again, here we are on Chill Filtered, back from the second break, and today we are drinking Colorado whiskey from Stranahan's in Colorado. And again, I feel like I'm going to mention this every time we mention the brand. It's not a bourbon, it's not a rye, it's just an American whiskey. Yep. And so I don't know that I have had anything like this yet. I don't think I've had just an American whiskey that wasn't a bourbon, wasn't a rye.
I don't think anything that you've had with me. Yeah.
I'm curious, like Jack Daniel's isn't really a bourbon and isn't really a rye. It's a Tennessee whiskey. So is that kind of like just an American whiskey?
Theoretically, all Tennessee whiskeys are bourbons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they don't want to admit that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what do you say we taste this Stranahan's?
Yeah, let's do it.
You can pop this bottle open.
One thing I also noticed on the label, wait for it. There There we go.
That one took you some effort.
I know.
There.
I didn't want to like pull too hard.
Yeah.
But it's also
That's
non-chill
what she said,
filter.
by the way.
Dang
Oh,
it.
it's non-chill filter.
Yeah, and actually you can see a little bit of that cloudy consistency every now and then when you look through the bottle.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, like we talked about a few episodes ago.
I do like that the label has a front side and a back side.
Yeah.
You got to look through the back of the label and to see the whole label.
Glug, glug, glug.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, this is one of my unopened bottles in my collection. So, I recently got like 7 bottles, and I've specifically not opened some of them so that we could have them. I could have them for the first time on the podcast. One of those, what I wanted to do on this episode was Rendezvous Rye.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
From High West, but we just did a rye last week, and I was like, doesn't make sense to do another rye so soon.
Yeah, but you haven't opened that one yet?
I haven't opened it.
That's surprisingly good for the price.
I'm keeping that one. So this one was unopened. I'm keeping that one unopened, and the Four Roses is
single
unopened
barrel
still.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to keep those all for the podcast.
Yeah.
So those are coming up, listeners. And then one of the other ones that I got recently that actually you gifted to me that I would love to do on the podcast
that'd be great.
is the Knob Creek 25th year anniversary.
Yep.
It's such a good bourbon.
It is
it's
good.
So good.
I was really surprised by how good that was.
I was really surprised that you gave it to me.
Oh yeah. No, that's kind of here's my thing, and I always think it's a cool thing. Whenever I go to an event where you have to bring a bottle, I always leave it behind or leave it with someone.
Yeah.
Actually, the guy Scott with My Bourbon Pursuit, the Twitter.
My Bourbon Journey, actually.
Ah, dang it. Yeah, My Bourbon Journey. Sorry, Scott.
My_bourbon_journey. That's correct. On Instagram and Twitter.
And YouTube.
And then
for
YouTube,
sure.
I think just search My Bourbon Journey.
Cool,
You'll find him.
Yeah, Scott's a really cool guy. And yeah, I was like, I'm leaving. Here, have you had this on your show yet? It was the Woodford Reserve Batch Proof.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. So I'm like, dude, have it.
There you
It'd
go.
be great. But not to toot my horn.
I noticed that you're warming it again.
Yeah. Ooh, grapey.
I honestly don't get a ton off the nose on this. It's not very strong to me.
Straight up grape juice?
No.
My goodness. It's like Concord grapes with your what's that one brand?
I don't get Concord grapes at all.
No, I'm getting them.
Nothing. I mean, I get an alcohol smell, but
yeah. Oh, it's nothing but like grapes and oak to me.
I have to really put my nose in there for this one to even get anything.
Maybe it's because you're not warmed. I got my warmed glass and you don't.
I held it like I just didn't put my hand over the top like you did because I'm not a snob.
I'm a snub.
Oh, here I am drinking whiskey. My name's Cole Sebald.
Twisting my mustache.
No. Oh, Martha, bring me a sandwich.
Yeah, but I'm going for a sip.
Okay, now that I've gotten a little bit more warmed up, it's got some notes there, but but nothing that super stands out. I'll say that. What do you think about that?
I think you're gonna enjoy this.
I mean, well, what did you think?
I
mean, you've had it before, but
I don't want to give away the notes until you try it yet. But it was very grapey, like off the nose. I got almost like brandy like. This might work really well in an old fashioned. Previous releases I've had tasted really strong of citrus. Orange citrus typically. I'm getting a tiny bit of that, but I remember more so in previous releases. What do you think?
I'll say this. It's not bad.
Yeah.
For a 94 proof, it's pretty weak.
It is.
But smooth. Mm-hmm. I will say that if somebody told me that they don't like whiskey, that I would probably give them this first.
It's a pretty good idea. Yeah, it's a really good idea.
It's not overbearing.
Yeah.
It's not something that is like, it doesn't make me wince at all.
It's very
not
friendly.
In the slightest. Yeah, it's definitely that's a great word for it.
Yeah.
It's very friendly.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt you.
But
you won't cough typically.
Even on the palate, I'm not really picking up anything other than just whiskey taste, if that makes any kind of sense.
Really? You're not getting that fruitiness that I'm getting? Not any bit of fruit.
No.
I mean, I'm getting like all the fruits.
It's got a very pleasant taste.
Yeah.
I'll give you that, but I don't get a specific note off of it.
Mm-hmm. So, on the front of the palate, what I say the front, like the very beginning, before I even open my mouth, I get nothing. But when I swallow and then slowly take in the breath, I get like grapes.
Yeah,
a little bit of citrus, a little bit of apples.
Here's a weird
oak.
note for you.
Mm-hmm.
you'll have to, it's very abstract.
Okay.
Square.
I'm getting more round, to be honest.
I know that sounds so weird, but it's like a cube in my mouth.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe what I mean is blunt, but not like it's not like an overpowering kind of bluntness.
Yeah.
It's
not
just
like a blunt force trauma.
it's just there.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Really?
But it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
It's by no means is it bad.
Yeah.
It's just there.
What's the closest thing you can compare it to?
I really can't.
Yeah, that's the thing about Stranahans.
I really don't think I can compare it to anything.
Yeah.
We got these tiny little ice cubes at this
I kind of
point.
like them when they're sort of tiny.
Cool mine down here. I wish that I could tell you that it tastes like something.
It's closest, honestly, what I think it's closest to Irish whiskey, but it's nothing like Irish whiskey. But I think, if anything, it's
nothing
to
like
that.
a Scotch, which is kind of what we hinted at a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, malted barley. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's nothing like a Scotch.
No. I mean, nah. I mean, that's that charred barrel. It does something.
Oh, now that
and they're new charred barrels, for the record. They don't reuse them, to my knowledge.
Now that I have dropped an ice cube in there and let it cool down.
Yeah,
cool down.
You just got cold.
Yeah. I'm getting a little fruitiness on the nose.
Yeah, I'm getting the same nose. A little lighter on the on everything, but I'm still getting that grapiness for myself. Color. Let's talk about color. Your average amber. Nothing too strong, nothing too dark. 2 to 5 years. Won't give too much on a charred barrel, but it's interesting. Yeah. What do you think?
With the ice cube is the most actual flavor that I've had. Is now I'm getting a little bit of that fruitiness.
Wow.
It's not a specific fruitiness. I would just say fruitiness.
Yeah.
But still, mostly, I think it just tastes like whiskey.
Yeah. I would say the notes that I gave earlier were amplified like twice over in the ice sip that I had. Like everything that I had.
So do you think
is
it's
the same.
better with ice?
Better. It was definitely a lot sweeter, and
Okay.
sweeter might have been overwhelming. So was it more amplified? Yes. Was it better? I don't know. Because the sweetness overpowers a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting. I thought you had to have it because you've never had a American whiskey.
Yeah, no, I am happy to have it on my shelf. I don't want you to think that I don't like it at all.
No, I wasn't implying that.
It's actually very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's very, very enjoyable. It just doesn't strike me as anything. No flavors strike me.
So I think it might be really good in a cocktail. I would be willing to
so
look
too.
up quite a bit. I mean, I'm sure that on their website they have like cool cocktails you can make with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's not going to overpower a cocktail with any specific taste.
Yeah.
So you could use this really in any whiskey-based cocktail, I think, to really like have a specific flavor come out that you would add to it. And this is not necessarily going to... It's definitely going to bring a whiskey taste, but it's not going to adulterate any other taste.
Might go with Coke too. Might be worth.
Yeah, for sure.
Be interesting. Different than Jack and Coke for sure.
Yeah, I know. Like the only other real whiskey that I've had in Coke is
Crown.
No, is like I'll do Jim Beam every now and then in Coke. I once drank a bar out of Jim Beam.
That's right.
By doing Jim and Coke. And then recently at a wedding, I brought a bottle of Bullet Rye and had that in Pepsi.
Yeah.
And it was really strange.
Really?
It tasted like salty Pepsi.
Weird.
And it was great. It was really good.
There was I think I mentioned it in a previous episode, but Lexington bourbon tasted really, really good with Coke. Is it worth that price for? I mean, Lexington's probably like between 40 and 60. Is it worth that price for it? No, but it was really interesting.
I would still love an episode, speaking of doing a cocktail episode on the Patreon, I would still love an episode where we take really good bourbon, expensive bourbon, and try it with Coke and like, rate it 1 through 10 or whatever. What's best?
Could you imagine a Supernova with Coke?
No, that would be horrible. I like Supernova is good for what it is, like straight and stuff, but like that is not
so
meant to be
weird
mixed with
Coke.
something.
Yeah,
that would be
not, especially for the price.
That would ruin the Coke.
Oh yeah, yeah, it would ruin the Coke.
Some might say that would ruin the whiskey.
Yeah, no, that would ruin the Coke.
Yeah,
It would just like make it. Why did I try this?
So, like you said, I think it would be good in cocktails, and I do kind of want to explore with you the thought of, because I hear all the time, I meet people and say, hey, you know, I'm doing this whiskey podcast. I started a whiskey collection, and I still hear people go, oh, I couldn't do whiskey. I don't like whiskey and blah, blah, blah. And I am always saying, I bet you I could find one that you would enjoy and I can get you to enjoy. I think this would probably be my go-to. I think I said the Abuna Scotch is one that I would use if people that are already into whiskey and they say they don't like Scotch, I would say you need to try this Abuna. If somebody's just like, I'm not into whiskey, I think this really might be the one.
Yeah, it might be a good introduction for the whole realm of whiskey. Because it's really sweet. Really sweet. Fruity.
I didn't taste the sweetness.
I mean, I would almost compare that to a young brandy.
Sure.
Yeah. It was that sweet to me.
I've had the opportunity in the last 2 weeks to introduce 2 people to whiskey.
Oh, nice.
And one was my sister-in-law, and she was just like, I've just always wanted to be like a cool person that likes whiskey. And so I let her try a few from my collection and kind of taught her the method.
Yeah.
And because she said, you know, whenever I've had whiskey in the past, like it's always been not good.
Yeah.
And it hurts and it burns my tongue and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that's because you're drinking it wrong. You're drinking it like you would drink any other, like just a glass of water, you know? And so I kind of walked her through it and like taught her how to try and enjoy it because, you know, to be honest, when you're starting out, you do have to try and enjoy this drink. You do. Yeah. It's not just going to, it's definitely, you know, when you talk about a like a learned, or what do they say? Like coffee is a, I can't think of the phrase.
Acquired.
An acquired taste. It's definitely an acquired taste. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people out there that would go, well, that just means it's bad and you have to learn to like bad things. And it's like, no, that's not it. It's a different taste that you're not used to, and you have to learn how to appreciate that. But once you do, it's
sky's the limit.
Life-changing. Yeah, and you get to enjoy all these. Because here's the thing. Whiskey isn't just one taste. Yeah. Most whiskeys are going to have this myriad of flavors. And so it's been really cool since we started doing this to be able to talk to people and be like, let me show you how you can appreciate this and taste what you're supposed to be tasting.
Now, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Did it take?
She tried her first one and she was kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. And then she tried another one. She's like, you know what? I actually like this one.
Oh, there you go.
She tried a third one. She's like, okay, I'm definitely getting like what you mean, that like this can be a good thing and not just something that is abysmal to me.
That's the one of the greatest things of being a whiskey lover is showing someone that whiskey is not scary. Yeah. Or that you could really appreciate what you're drinking. Yeah. It's awesome.
So what do you think about rating this whiskey, Cole?
I would say, I was thinking about it as we were speaking, I would give this a 5.9.
I'm so glad that you said that because I was going to say like a 5.4 or 5.3. Yeah. And that's not the highest score that either you or I have ever given, but it is, I mean that with respect. Yeah. Good. It is a respectful 5.3 or so. Mm-hmm. It's not bad by any means. No. Just for me, because I didn't get a lot out of the flavor, I would like to see some more intricacy in that flavor. You know, if I had gotten more than just 1 or 2 notes out of this, as far as the palate goes, this would be like a 7 or an 8 for me. But because really the flavor I got was whiskey, it's just that. And so I'm giving it a good 5.3, you know.
Yeah, and I've had better batches, to be honest.
Really?
And maybe not 7 batches, but maybe 6.3 batches. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a good whiskey. Yeah. It's like I said, hasn't been my favorite, but
our first American whiskey.
Yeah, on the show. I like that they're doing this. I like that this is a thing and it's available to people to use it. Yeah. Or to purchase it. And like I said, once again, I would say that this is definitely if somebody doesn't like whiskey, this would be the first one that I would send to them or sit with them and drink with them. So again, Cole, you said like a 5.9, 5.8. Yep. I said 5.3, 5.4. So, and listeners, once again, if you want to try this whiskey, Total Wine has it on their website for about $43, give or take a few dollars at your local liquor store. But go out, try it. Tell us on Facebook or on Twitter what you think of this whiskey, and we would just love to hear from you about anything, to be honest with you. So that's the whiskey we're tasting today. And Cole, I've got something to talk to you about, and you're going to hear about it on today's Whiskey World News. Hey, it's Whiskey World News here on Chill Filtered. This is the segment of the show where we read an article from a website. It's not an article that we wrote. It's written by somebody else, posted on a website that we have nothing to do with. So today's article comes from vinepair.com.
Nice. And
the title of the article is, we actually mentioned this bourbon, Four Roses workers strike amid $55 million distillery expansion.
Wow.
And this is by Tim McCurdy. Again, it's from vinepair.com. Four Roses workers strike amid $55 million distillery expansion by Tim McCurdy. Four Roses union workers went on strike on Friday afternoon after they were left aggrieved by contract negotiations with the Japanese-owned distillery. Are they owned by Beam Suntory?
I guess.
That would be my guess.
That's the doubt it's Yoichi.
Approximately 53 workers from 3 local unions protested outside the company's Lawrenceburg distillery and its bottling facility in Bullitt County, WKYT reports. The strike, led by union workers from the UFCW Local 10D, UFCW Local 23D, and NCFO 320, comes after contract negotiations broke down between employees and the distillery. Workers are said to be dissatisfied with proposed changes to sick leave, seniority rights, and vacation time. The Kentucky distillery will celebrate its 130th anniversary this year and recently completed a $55 million expansion that will double its capacity.
Wow.
The increased capacity should see a boost in profits for the distillery at a time when workers feel their benefits are being taken away. The company's booming, and they're only wanting to offer us $2 over a 5-year period. And the last time we got $2.50, and we feel like that's a slap in our faces, Four Roses employee Joe Marshall told WKYT. While the distillery has made some concessions to meet employee demands, the compromises will only affect current workers. Union leaders are worried that this will create a 2-tier system between existing employees and new recruits. Speaking to WKYT, president of UFCW Local 10D, Jeff Royalty, that's quite the last name,
wow,
said, "It creates animosity and it's like a cancer. It will eat away at the union. It will dissolve the family atmosphere." In August, Four Roses employees also took out a newspaper advertisement in the Anderson News, calling the distillery's offer the worst contract proposal since Prohibition. When will the corporate greed be satisfied? The advertisement said. At press time, Four Roses had not commented on Friday's strike nor the ongoing contract negotiations. So I chose this article, Cole, because it just goes to show that whiskey is a business.
Yeah.
And there's different disputes that happen in businesses, and it affects things like price. It affects things like production and how many bottles of it are available. You know, certain whiskeys at different times become harder to get and harder to find. And maybe sometimes people go, well, why? Like, for the last 3 years, I could go to my liquor store and find this bottle of whiskey, and it was this price every day of the week. And so they might go, well, why is it all of a sudden harder to find? And if I can find it, it's $10 more or $20 more.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that affects that stuff. And I just wanted to talk to you about it. And like, I don't know, what do you think about whiskey as a business? We look at it as this, romanticized traditional thing. But I think sometimes you and I forget that, like, this is a business for people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Typically in economics, even microeconomics, when the supply goes down, which usually happens with a strike, price has to go up.
Yeah.
and to, make up for it. And then when that kind of stuff price goes up, sometimes the demand goes down, and there can be like just a huge, effect from something like a strike.
Yeah, especially once you've just in the process, or you've just completed a $55 million expansion.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge investment.
Having a big chunk of workers go, we're not going to do this anymore, could really impact you and impact your product.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I mean, like, when you put in that much money, was it $50 million or something?
$55
million. That's a huge investment to have it halted and to have it, like, just be like, oh, so is this going to happen? I mean, when time is money, like, I really mean that. Like, and when you want to stop, production, or even just slow down the production, time adds up, money adds up, investment adds up, and that could really hurt Four Roses. And they're a great company, really great company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got for Whiskey World News. We are short on time. Like,
What are we
shorter than we usually are.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about, or do we make this a short episode?
Let's talk about what we're doing next time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What are we doing next time?
So next time will be a bourbon, specifically actually, we've been doing a lot of Buffalo Trace products, but this one is Colonel E.H. Taylor. We've done the 4-grain. This is the single barrel, which is a lot more accessible than something like the 4-grain, which is a special edition.
What would be the difference?
The single barrel is, made all year. The special edition 4-grain is only been made twice, and it's done. So you don't have to fight for this one. Actually, for example, the liquor store I work at has it almost all the time.
Okay.
This single barrel, but most liquor stores don't have it, as I've realized. Only some of the nicer ones.
Every liquor store I've been to in town always has single barrel and the small batch.
Maybe it's like one of those Wisconsin things, like Sazerac, where you can find Sazerac anywhere, but in like Colorado you have to fight for it, or like Virginia you have to fight for it.
That could be.
Yeah. So single barrel, not small batch. We're drinking that one, and the typical retail is about 70, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up on Total Wine right now.
Yeah, it's probably a little lower with Total Wine.
It looks like Total Wine has it for
65.
55.
Ooh.
That's on their website right now.
$55.
Nice. Give or take $10 to $15 on this one,
for
though.
sure.
Probably not take. Like, it's probably not less than $55 anywhere.
Yeah.
It's probably add maybe $10 to $15 on that.
I think the ones I've seen are typically around 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the small batch in my collection, and I think that was like 43 or 44.
Yep. And there's a huge debate on, is single barrel even better than the small batch?
Sure.
Or is it even worth the price compared to it? And a lot of people have arguments about it. So.
Well, do we want to try both
next week? We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's put them next to each other.
So next
for the
week
price.
we'll do the E.H. Taylor small batch, which again I got for. Well, you tell them what we're gonna do. So small batch and single barrel.
We'll do small batch, single barrel right next to each other, and we're just we're honestly first gonna find out which one we like more, and we should do a blind test.
Ooh.
I'm calling it right now. We're doing a blind test.
How are we going to do that?
So we'll put numbers on each, or we'll put markers on each glass.
Okay.
And then you know what I'm drinking, and I know what you're drinking.
Sure.
So we'll do it like that.
That's going to be hard to do, I guess.
No, it won't be too bad.
It feels like it's going to be hard to do. So the Colonel E.H. Taylor small batch on Total Wine is about $35.
Holy cow. That's cheap and amazing.
Yeah, I think you'll be lucky to find that anywhere.
Yeah,
for that. But
I mean, I see it around 40, 45.
But yeah, so those two bottles cheap. You could get both of those for under $100 and add 2 great bottles to your shelf.
Yep.
Drink with us next week.
Yep.
We're gonna compare them and tell you which one we think is better.
Yep.
I am looking forward to that a lot. I am looking forward to it. Listen, I'm glad that we have started doing video.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not sure how often we'll do this because it is more work for me. I hope that people, take this and like they watch the episodes and they get more out of that from the YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah.
I hope that they share these videos with people. I hope that they watch these with their families or something. But most of all, Cole,
what do you hope?
I hope that our love of spirits lifted yours.